right, so this is week 2 of the coding challenges. And last week, we touched on if statements. So we said, first we touched on variables last week. So we said, hey, we can store data in, if you had like your name, you could say, hey, my name is MK Bryce. And then we could print it out, right? So we said print name, and then when you run it, it prints out the data that you stored in the variable. Then we touched on if statements, where we said, look, based on the value, if name is MK Bryce, we can have it do one thing, which is like print it out. And then we said, hey, otherwise, we can have it do something different. We can print out not MK Bryce, right? So then if it is MK Bryce, oh, whoops. So if it is MK Bryce, it prints that. If it's anything else, it prints not MK Bryce, right? So that's like a conditional, that's an if statement. And then we made the Choose Your Own Adventure game, and it was really cool. We saw Fortnite Yaster in the drive, made a really cool game, and he did it based on the code that we did. So good job, Fortnite Yaster. This week, we're gonna touch on some new stuff, all right? So if you wanna follow along, you can go to onlinepython.com and delete what it has there, start with a blank screen, and you can follow along yourself to kind of learn some of these basic concepts, all right? The main kind of idea from this week is gonna be the idea that you can import code that other people have wrote and use it in your code very, very easily. And the first one was a request from last week is to make a timer, all right? Andy, I'm glad you're ready, here we go. The first one is importing a timer, right? So if you say import time, oh, whoops. You just write, sorry. You put import time. What that does is it's taking a library, which a library is just code that someone else wrote, and that library is called time. It's kind of built into Python. And it lets you use the code that other people wrote. And the way that you do that is you can store the code into a variable, right? So if we say a variable called current time, and we do an equal sign, and then we say time.time with an open and close parentheses. When you print that out, what that does is it runs the code that you imported in that library, and that little bit of code right there is counting the seconds that have occurred since January 1st, 1970, which is like a random time that the person who wrote that code decided on. So you can see that number, that's the number of seconds since 1970. It's kind of random, but it's really valuable because look, you see it ends 383 here, you run it again, it's counting the seconds. That number is gonna go up every single time you write the code, and that lets you do some really cool stuff, right? What it does is you can count how much time elapses between two different points in time, right? So you can say, look, the current time is this, and then we can do kind of what we did last week. Another idea that we learned last week was taking input from the user. So we can say, look, user input equals input, and then this is the message. So enter anything here. And then what we can do is we can print out the total time that has elapsed since this program started. All right? And now what that's gonna be is you're gonna take the current time, which was stored back in their very beginning. Time is gonna elapse while the person is entering, while the user of your program is entering anything. And then you're gonna take time.time, so this is like actually the current time, so we can say this is old time, right? We'll change this to old time. And the way that this is gonna work is time.time minus old time. That's gonna give you a number that's very small because the old time is gonna be, you know, seconds are, let me try that again. What this line of code is gonna do is it's gonna take the current time now and it's gonna subtract the current time from before. The difference is gonna be the number of seconds that have elapsed from the old time to now. So it'll say like 10 seconds or something, right? If we run the code, It takes the old time. Seconds are elapsing while we're typing anything. And it says, look, 4.9 seconds have elapsed since the code started. Look at that. Now we, what that is a timer. That's exactly what we talked about last week. Now we have a timer that we can use in our code. So that's really cool, and that's gonna be the first idea. We're gonna keep this code here. This is a timer, all right? But let's go down a little bit because we're also gonna do random numbers. And these are really valuable too. This is the backbone of a lot of games, right? Introducing randomness to your game. So we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna import random, right? This is all importing another library, importing other code that someone else wrote. And we're going to store a random number using their code. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna type random.randrange. Oh, sorry, all lowercase, randrange. We're gonna do open and close parentheses, and then the number that we put in this parentheses is the maximum value of the random number that this program can generate. So let's just say 100, just for fun. So the value stored in random number is gonna be some number from 0 to 100. Actually 0 to 99. But we can see that if we print out that random number now. And we run it. See, it's 9, we run it again, now it's 12, now it's 71. It's a random number every time. All right? So that's pretty cool, I think. So now what we can do is we can try and combine these things together, all right? This is indeed cool bananas. I'm glad you think so, Electric Seagull. Now what we can do is we can start to combine these things together, all right? So we can say, we can make a bit of a little game, right? So we can say, we can try and get the user to guess the random number that was created by the program. So let's lower this down to like 5 just for a second to make this easier. And we can say, try and guess the random number. All right? We're gonna start counting in the very beginning, right? So right before we ask the user, we're gonna say this is the old time. And we're gonna see how much time elapses before the user is able to guess the number. We'll take out this user input here, because now we have this try and guess the random number. And we're gonna say, we're gonna use that if statement we talked about last week. We're gonna say if the guess is equal to the random number. If that's right, then they win, right? We'll print out, you win. Otherwise, else, remember to do the colon. We'll print out, you lose. And then it'll print out how much time has elapsed since the program started, right? We'll see how long it took them to make this guess. Try and guess the random number. We know it's gonna be between 0 and 4. So we'll say maybe 2. No, you lose. Let's have it also print out. The answer was random number. Here's the thing too, we're just gonna also make our guess an integer. So we're gonna type int and we're gonna wrap guess in parentheses like that. What that does is that it gets a little bit complicated. I'll try and go over it really quick. When the number is generated, it's stored as a number, right? An integer, that's what int stands for here. When you're typing something, even if you're typing in a number, right? No matter what you type, if you're typing it in, it's stored as a string. And a string is like a collection of characters, right? So it's different from a number. It gets kind of complicated. We don't have to go into the details. If you want to on another time, maybe we can. But for now, we're just gonna say we have to wrap this in an integer to make this a number and to make this a number, all right? So we're gonna try this again. Try and guess, is it 2? No, the answer was 1. Let's see if we can win this one. 3, the answer was 0. Come on. You win! I guessed 1 and the answer was 1, and it took 0.65 seconds, all right? So that worked. Integers can be both positive and negative. local teacher in your area, thank you for the contribution. I appreciate it. And within the context of the program, an integer is like a number, and a string is like a collection of characters. So it can be a word. It can, like, characters are number, like, so this could, the way that it's denoted in a program is by these quotes, right? So this is a string. This is an integer. And if you want to compare things in an if statement, you have to compare variable types that are the same. So when random number is generated as an integer, you have to make the user input an integer also, all right? Just like when you print it out here, you have to print out a string. So you're wrapping this number, it's generated as an integer. That's why you have to make it a string here, okay? So this is a little frustrating because you only get one chance to guess. We can make this into a more fun game if we say the program is going to continue to run while the user is guessing until they get it right. The way we're going to do that is we're going to wrap this in a while loop. So the way you do that is you just write while here, and you say while int guess does not equal the random number. Make sure you put a colon on the end. Highlight everything and tab in. We can get rid of the else now. And so the way that this while loop works is everything after the colon, everything that's tabbed in here is gonna repeat over and over again. So what we wanna do is we wanna ask them, we wanna put new values in the guess, we wanna ask them to try and guess the random number over and over again until they get it right. So we'll say, try again. Try and guess the random number. And we can now put you win outside of the while loop. So we'll put it maybe here. All right, so it's not tabbed in, so it doesn't repeat anymore. And we'll run it. Try and guess the random number. Is it 1? Happen to get it right that time. Try and guess the random number. Is it 1? Wait a minute. Oh, 2, 3, 1. Oh, is it all? Why is it always 1? Wait a minute. Oh, it was 4 that time. All right, it's not always 1. All right, good. It's 1 a lot, though. Oh, it was 0 that time. All right, so this is working. So now we have what is basically a game, right? You run it, you try and guess the random number, and you keep guessing until you get it, right? We finally got it, and there's a little timer that says the total time that elapsed. Now, the next thing that we want to do is have the game, like, this is fine if there's only 5 numbers, but if we get to 100, this is gonna be a really tough game, and it's gonna be kind of boring. So what if we were able to have Python tell you if your guess is too high or too low? Here's how we'll do that. We'll use the if statements from before, and it's not even gonna take too much new stuff. It's mostly gonna be using the if statements from last week. We can say if the integer version of your guess, because remember your guess is stored as a string. If the integer version of your guess is greater, right? We're just gonna use that greater than sign. If it's greater than random number, then we'll tell the user by printing your guess is too high. Try again. And we'll actually not make that a print, we'll actually make that an input, because remember, we want them to be entering a new value. Else, right? Here, we'll do else if the integer version of their guess is too low, right? If the integer version of their guess is less than a random number, then it'll be the same thing, but instead of telling them it's too high, we'll say your guess is too low. Try again. All right? And so this covers everything. If it's too high, we say that. If it's too low, we say that. If it's right on, then it'll break out of this while loop and it'll print out you win. So let's give it a shot. Oh, whoops, we have to do, there shouldn't be a colon there. All right, try and guess the random number. So now it's between 0 and 100, so it should be harder. We're gonna guess 50. That's too low. We'll guess 75. We'll guess 88. Oh, now 88's too high. We'll guess 80. We'll guess 82. That was it. So we win. We guessed 82, and the time that elapsed was 16.99 seconds. All right, so that's pretty darn good. All right, and now there's one more thing we can do, all right? I think this is gonna make it really fun. Let's say that you have to solve this within a certain amount of time. All right, so that took 16 seconds. Let's say, let's put another if statement at the end and say, we're not gonna print you win no matter what. We're only gonna print you win if they solve it within a time limit. So we can set the limit up here, right? We're gonna make this new variable. We're gonna say the limit is, we'll say time limit is the name of the variable. And let's say the time limit is 10 seconds. All right, so time limit equals 10. Now we'll only print out you win if the current time, right? Time.time minus old time right here, copy, paste. If the current time minus the old time, remember this is, remember we were printing this out down here and it was 16.99, right? So what this essentially is the amount of time that it took you to solve it. If that amount of time is greater than the time limit, T-I-M-E-L-I-M-I-T, remember that's the value that we made up here. If the time is greater than the time limit, actually, so if the time is, or no, if the time is less than, right? So if you solved it in less than the limit, print out you win. Otherwise, right, else, we'll print out time expired, you lose. All right? So it assumes in seconds in the program unless otherwise stated. That's correct. That's correct. The way that, remember, we're importing this library, which is just code that someone else wrote. The way they wrote the code is that this old time, this time.time parenthesis, is the number of seconds that have passed since midnight on January 1st, 1970. It's like a random date and time that the person who wrote the code decided it to be, and it's seconds. What did you type for the time limit variable again? Yep, I just did time limit equals 10, right? So we stored 10 into time limit, and that's, and it can be anything we want. I just picked 10 because I think that'll be fun, all right? So now we can see, right? We can say, here, how about no matter what at the end, we'll print the answer and we'll print how much time it took. If they win or lose, that we'll say. It took you this many seconds. And we'll print the time.time minus old time thing that we have here. But remember, it has to be the string representation of it because the time is an integer. All right, let's run it and see if this works. Wait a minute, we have something here. Oh, we need to remember to put colons at the end of your if statements. Try and guess the random number. All right, it's between 0 and 100. We guess 50, too high. 25, too high. 11, perfect, we win. And it took 7.11 seconds. All right, so that was good. So we know the win works. Let's see if the lose works, right? So let's take a long time this time. 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make sure we lose. 25, 11, 5, 2, 1. Time expired, you lose. It took 16 seconds. All right, that was good. It took more than 10 seconds, so we lost. That works. And then here, wait, one more thing I just thought of might be fun. How about every time they guess, we'll print out how much time they have left. So the way that we'll do that is we'll say, you have, and if you wanna have multiple, if you wanna have like words plus a variable plus other words, you just put a plus in your print statement, right? So we'll say plus time.oldtime You have spent, here, wait. You've taken this amount of seconds. And that way there's a little bit of pressure, right? So if we guess 50, your guess is too low, try again. Wait, it didn't print out my thing. Oh, right, sorry, we have to make this a string. Try and guess random number, 50, 10. Oh, wait, we have to do it at the top here, wait, X. We're gonna do it here, because in the very beginning, we wanna print it out too, right? Before we ask again. All right, try it. So we'll put the print statement right after the while loop. All right, try again. Try and guess the random number, 50. Nope, you've taken 1.8 seconds. All right, so now there's a little bit of pressure. Now you're like, oh my God, 75. Oh God, we took 7.9. Oh, we're not gonna get it this time. 60. Oh, we took 11 seconds, we lose. Here's a trick too. As a teacher, you might know, an integer is, so actually, an integer is a whole number, right? The way that time works is it's actually a float. We're getting really complicated now, but an integer has to be a whole number. A float can be decimals, right? So if we make this an integer first, and then we make it a string. So the way this works is you do int and string, int parentheses, str parentheses, then it won't have all these decimals. It'll be a little bit cleaner. Try and guess the random number, 50. You've taken 2 seconds. Guess is too low, 75. You've taken 5 seconds. Oh God, 88, 90, 92. Oh, we lost. 95, 96. Oh my God, it took you this many seconds. All right, I'm gonna win this game. You ready? I'm gonna freaking win this time. 50, 25, 33, 39, 44, 42, 41. Got it! 9.6 seconds, baby! All right. So that's the game. That's it. That's the whole game. I'll go over it one more time. The first 2 lines, we're importing code from somebody else. The next chunk, we're setting our variables, right? So we're generating the random number. We're taking a snapshot of the time. We're asking the user to try and guess the random number, and we're setting the time limit. Then, until the user is able to guess the number, we're gonna repeat the things that happen here. We're gonna tell them how much time they've taken, and then we're gonna tell them if their number is too high or too low. We're gonna keep doing this over and over again until the guess that they put in is equal to the random number we generated. Then we'll check to see if their time is below the time limit or not, and we'll print out you win or you lose. And then finally, we'll tell them what the number was and how many seconds it took them. And that's the whole game. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my code here, and if you guys wanna look at it more in depth, I'm gonna put it into this Google Drive folder. I'm gonna make MK Bryce's higher or lower. And so you guys can make your own game. You can make it the same as this, or you can mix it up. You can make the range of numbers different. You can make the time limit different. You can kind of play with it however you want. I'm gonna share this folder. I definitely know how to do this. Here we go. Anyone with the link can access it. Copy. I'm gonna put it in the description below this YouTube video. And I'd encourage anyone who wants to write their own code and put it in. And then next week on stream, if you guys have made games, I can play the games on stream and see how it went. If there's any questions, let me know. You can ask in Discord or in the YouTube comments. And that's it. Thanks for watching.